What is going on, guys? My name is Bradley with DoublySports, bringing you a brand new episode of our Draftkings DFS NFL Week 3 2020 Sleepers, Studs, and Stacks. Now, Week 2 kind of got off to a little bit of a rocky start for a lot of people. Whether you play fantasy football or daily fantasy sports, there was a lot of injuries Week 2. Personally, I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so it's really sad to see CMC go down. Saquon Barkley, another great running back, goes down. A lot of defenders go down, but good news for DFS players to try and, unfortunately, put a positive spin on this. There's a lot of opportunities for you to be able to grab people in fantasy football leagues as well as in Draftkings, Fanduel, or whatever DFS platform you use. So we're going to be taking a look at some of those today in our sleepers portion. Before we can get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to take a look back. We're always transparent here with DoublySports and our sleeper studs and stacks. And if you appreciate the video or if you enjoy the content at any point in time, please give a thumbs up to the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The good from Week 2, Melvin Gordon. He put up a nice little 16-point day, right around that $5,000 timeline. Ezekiel Elliott, 23.2 points. Mark Cooper at 19. Kyler Murray putting up 33.14 Draftkings points. Calvin Ridley. Now, if you follow us over on Patreon, I don't think Calvin Ridley was really a standout to us during the Sleeper Studs and Stacks videos. But for our Patreon starting 5, we absolutely included Calvin Ridley. Every single week, we give out our starting 5 for our base lineup. We usually make 2 or 3 lineups, depending on how the week's going and how it's shaping up. But Calvin Ridley was one guy that we included in our starting 5, patreon.com/DoublySports, if you want to be a part of that, as well as DeAndre Hopkins. He was our high dollar wide receiver that we were looking at closing in on. Now the bad. Got to admit when you make mistakes, guys, you can't be perfect 100% of the time. I'm not making 150 lineups and just saying like, look, I expected this guy to go off. No, you didn't. Okay? Sometimes you got to take the good and the bad. Not everyone's perfect 100% of the time. So Logan Thomas, 6.9 DraftKings points. Curtis Samuel, only 5.9 DraftKings points. Darius Slayton. Juju Smith-Schuster putting up a little bit of a bad day. And finally, Derrick Henry. That was our top dollar running back who did not perform at all. Our sleepers. These are the low-priced guys under $5,500 that we expect to have a big weekend. Based on playing time, target share, volume, whatever it might be, there's a lot of different criterion that go into this evaluation. Now, I like to play 50-50s and double-ups and then play a little bit in this bigger tournaments. So, I'm looking for high volume, high floor. I'm not looking for boom or bust in a lot of these opportunities. I want a guy that's going to consistently get me points. Where do we start? Here's a quarterback for you. Teddy Bridgewater at only $5,200. Yes, they will be without CMC. That is unfortunate. But that means they're going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. So I look for Teddy Bridgewater to have a little bit of elevated numbers. I think both the first 2 weeks, I think he had 17 and 19 DraftKings points. I wouldn't be surprised if he cracked 20. And at $5,200, if we get 20, that supersedes that 4 times $1,000 spent. If we put in a $5,000 guy, we want to get 20 points out of him. That's ideal. Next up, Mike Davis in the same game from Carolina. This is CMC's replacement, okay? He's not going to put up Christian McCaffrey numbers, but Carolina has the highest running back usage in the league. Yes, I did just mention that without CMC, Teddy Bridgewater's going to have to throw more, but Mike Davis had 8 receptions on 8 targets last week in virtually half of a game. They're going to use Mike Davis in a similar fashion of Christian McCaffrey. Another running back, Jerick McKinnon against the New York Giants. It's not a great New York Giants front seven. And there's no real competition. San Francisco has always been a pound the ball kind of team. With Jimmy Garoppolo back there, he idolizes and fits the perfect mold of that game manager. This one, Jerick McKinnon, I look to have a ton of volume. Chris Hogan at $3,700. Now, I'm not going to be the only guy that's on this play, bar none. New York Jets literally do not have a wide receiver on their roster. It's a bunch of guys that they found down at the high school that played Friday night against Watauga High School, and now they're stepping onto the field on Sunday. All right, that's probably a little sarcastic, obviously. Chris Hogan is a very good wide receiver. He's had some success in New England, then in Carolina. Now he goes up to the New York Jets. I expect Hogan to have the most routes, and at only $3,700, It's kind of a bargain you can't afford to pass up if you're looking for a boom or bust kind of guy. Deshaun Jackson, 5,200, should see the bulk of the targets. He was only second in routes run last week, but Jalen Rigor, out. Alshon Jeffrey, out. Deshaun Jackson and Arcega-Whiteside are the guys for Philadelphia. And finally, Dion Lewis for the New York Giants going up against San Francisco. They just picked up Devonta Freeman, but Dion Lewis is game ready, playbook ready, coach ready. Not so much for Devonta Freeman. I don't expect Dion Lewis to handle every touch, and I don't expect Devonta Freeman to take the bulk of the carries. At $5,300, a guy that can catch out of the backfield, Dion Lewis is a nice play this week. And our more to watch, KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, we're going to get more into that on Patreon, with Cortland Sutton going down, Michael Pittman Jr. against the New York Jets, with Paris Campbell going down for the Indianapolis Colts, and Golden Tate at only $4,500 against San Francisco. A San Francisco defense that is without a lot of really good talent on the front seven, with Solomon Thomas, Nick Bosa, and a couple others going down and facing injury. It's still a very good defense, but I don't know if it's going to be as elite in the pass rushing department against Daniel Jones and this New York Giants offense. Now our studs. These are the more expensive guys. All the more reason to pay attention to the sleeper and the value plays that you're playing from the previous slide. Where are we going to start? In order to be able to afford a lot of these guys, like DeAndre Hopkins, we have to take a little bit of a price cut some other places. So DeAndre Hopkins, $7,900 against Detroit, one of the worst teams in the league against the pass, a defensive back situation that still has not yet improved from where it was a year ago. Last week, caught 8 of 9 targets for only 68 yards and a touchdown, but still managed 20 points. Week 1 had 32 points. I think 20 to 22 points is his floor in this game, with a ceiling of about 35. DeAndre Hopkins at 7,900. If you can grab him by playing a lot of sleepers or value plays this week with all these cheap running backs, I think DeAndre Hopkins is a great play. DK Metcalf, 6,500, or Tyler Lockett just below that price against Dallas. Both of these guys are far too cheap. Dallas has given up huge chunks of yards to wide receivers this year, most notably Calvin Ridley putting up 39 points last week. So, if you want to go with DK Metcalf because of the red zone targets, go with DK. If you want a small, shifty guy that's going to be able to put up a lot of volume in terms of catches and yardage, Tyler Lockett is your guy. Or you can stack all three of them together with Russell Wilson. Against Dallas, he's the most expensive quarterback on the slate, but he is going to be, in my opinion, the highest scoring. If you want similar value, but cheaper price, look for Kyler Murray against Detroit or Cam Newton going up against a very, very young Las Vegas defensive back situation. Cam Newton, I think that play kind of depends on Julian Edelman. At $6,200 against Las Vegas, once again, that young pass defense has been absolutely terrible at giving up the big plays. If Edelman's healthy, I think him and Cam are going to have very similar numbers that they had last week, where Edelman had a career day. Derrick Henry at $7,800 against Minnesota. He let me down last week. I don't think Derrick Henry has ever had back-to-back non-100-yard rushing games. Look for him to get back on track against a Minnesota defense that's been dealing with injury all year. Derrick Henry, $7,800. If you want to pivot away and a little bit cheaper, Miles Sanders at $6,400 against Cincinnati. He saw 8 targets last week, which is pretty common for him, but only 3 receptions. Those numbers are sure to improve with Jalen Rigor being completely out, and the Cincinnati defense is not that good. More to watch. Austin Ekeler against Carolina. It's a very, very good matchup for Austin Ekeler, but it kind of depends on if Carolina is going to load the box and make the new quarterback and Justin Herbert beat him, or if Carolina is going to see what Herbert did with his arm last week and kind of let Ekeler take over. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan. I can't pick against my own team, can I? Kenyon Drake going up against Detroit at $6,000. Detroit's going to have to help out those defensive backs. Should be a lot of opportunity for him to run inside the tackles. Amari Cooper going up against Seattle, who's given up some big plays again. Jonathan Taylor against the New York Jets. I would like to see him get a few more targets in the passing game that he's been getting, but last week, a really strong game. I believe it was 127 yards. He looks like he's going to be the guy going forward for the Indianapolis Colts with Marlon Mack being out, and I'm not afraid to choose him this week. Now, guys, as we do every single week, support for today's episode of Sleeper Studs and Stacks is brought to you by Manscaped. This is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. I'm telling you, Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. You got to take care of the good stuff, man. They obsess over their technology developments and provide you with the best tools for a grooming experience. I've been there before. I've nicked and cut myself. That doesn't happen anymore. Manscaped completely redesigned the electric trimmer, and their engineering team spent 18 months perfecting the greatest trimmer ever. It's their Lawnmower 3.0. This third-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to advanced skin-safe technology pioneered by Manscaped. Also, they've upgraded that bad boy with 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology. That was my nickname in high school. And let's not forget about that charging stand. I told you I put mine in my guest bathroom because I'm not afraid to show it off. All right? So if you're listening to me talk right now, here's how you can save 20% off plus get free shipping with your next purchase at manscaped.com. Go to manscaped.com. Use code Doubly at checkout. Again, that is code Doubly, Doubly, code Doubly at manscaped.com to get 20% off plus free shipping. Trust me, your balls will thank you. Now we got to get into our stacks. And this is probably the most pivotal point of your lineup. Where are we starting? The cheapest stack that I'm willing to play this week. Teddy and Mike Davis, the cheapest starting duo on the slate. I mentioned Teddy Bridgewater. I think he's the cheapest starting quarterback this week at $5,200. Mike Davis, sub $5,500 in a team that uses the running back more than any other team in the league. And pair that with DJ Moore, who has seen 11 targets a game. He had 13 one week and 9 the other. I think this is kind of a slam dunk, especially in those 50-50 matchups. They are sure to get you a lot of points and save you a lot of money to chase down those Dallas Cowboys players, the Seattle Seahawks players, Arizona Cardinals players. There's a lot of pivots to this to just give you a nice, confident base. Arizona Cardinals against Detroit. Kyler Murray, Kenyon Drake, DeAndre Hopkins. I've talked about all of them. But I think you have to fit in some of those cheaper running backs if you're going to make this one work. You have to look the way of Mike Davis. You have to look at Dion Lewis or Jerick McKinnon. You have to grab one of those cheaper running backs to even make this one work. Same thing for the Seattle Seahawks. Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf are absolutely going to put up points. I'm interested in Chris Carson as well. But you know these three guys are going to perform. They've done it for 2 straight weeks. They're going to continue to do so against the Dallas Cowboys defense that has given up a lot of yardage and a lot of big plays. Me, personally, I'm going for DK Metcalf because I'm looking at those touchdowns and the red zone targets. But Tyler Lockett's looking pretty good. He's definitely kind of that Calvin Ridley-esque wide receiver that's quick, shifty, wants to get in and out of his breaks and gets and finds the open space in the field. Tyler Lockett, a very confident play this week. Now our defenses, looking for turnovers and sacks, and no one does it better than Tampa Bay, going up against a Denver offense where you are not sure who's going to be starting at wide receiver. Tampa Bay, $3,700 is my best play of the week. Indianapolis Colts against the New York Jets, obviously going to be a great play with so many young wide receivers, not even great wide receivers, just new, fresh faces to that wide receiving core that you haven't seen in previous weeks. Indianapolis Colts against the New York Jets, most expensive on the play, but probably a decent one. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I know it's out a little bit later than usual, but hopefully you can still use some of this information to make the best lineup you can. Remember, if you enjoyed any part of this video or use any of this information, please go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I never want you to miss a video. Find me on Twitter at Brad Emley, personally, Instagram, personal, BEE. But if you want to get with just the brand and talk sports only, find me, DoublySports on Twitter, Facebook.com/DoublySports, or Twitch.tv/DoublySports. And if you want that starting 5, it's getting ready to be, we're going to be publishing it here just in a few minutes. It's Saturday morning, so patreon.com/DoublySports for access to our weekly starting 5, as well as a late bloomers report that we will be posting tomorrow morning. Our late bloomers report deals a lot with injuries, late roster moves, weather reports, and some guys that just kind of emerged as the week went on. If you're interested in either one of those, make sure you head over to patreon.com/DoublySports. Finally, don't forget manscaped.com. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code Doubly. Hopefully the next time that I see you is here next week on the video and in the green.